The wind carried the sound first, something thin, desperate, almost swallowed by the prairie night. Sheriff Cal Adler reined in his horse, listening hard. There it was again, a cry muffled by distance, shaped by fear. It came from the cottonwood stand far off the trail, where the moonlight bent and pooled like spilled milk. Cal dismounted without thinking. The cry cut off suddenly, replaced by a silence so tight it felt intentional. His lantern revealed a woman stumbling out from between the trees, barefoot, dress torn at the hem but not destroyed, more like she'd run far and fast. Her cheeks were streaked with dust rather than blood, though her breath shook like she'd tasted terror. She clutched her arms around herself, not for warmth but for protection. "Ma'am." Cal kept his voice low. "You're safe now." Her eyes lifted, wide and hollow. "No. I'm not." She swayed, and Cal caught her elbow gently. The moment he touched her, she startled and pulled back, as if any hand on her skin felt like a threat. "What's your name?" he asked. The wind carried the sound first, something thin, desperate, almost swallowed by the prairie night. Sheriff Cal Adler reined in his horse, listening hard. There it was again, a cry muffled by distance, shaped by fear. It came from the cottonwood stand far off the trail, where the moonlight bent and pooled like spilled milk. Cal dismounted without thinking. The cry cut off suddenly, replaced by a silence so tight it felt intentional. His lantern revealed a woman stumbling out from between the trees, barefoot, dress torn at the hem but not destroyed, more like she'd run far and fast. Her cheeks were streaked with dust rather than blood, though her breath shook like she'd tasted terror. She clutched her arms around herself, not for warmth but for protection. "Ma'am." Cal kept his voice low. "You're safe now." Her eyes lifted, wide and hollow. "No. I'm not." She swayed, and Cal caught her elbow gently. The moment he touched her, she startled and pulled back, as if any hand on her skin felt like a threat. "What's your name?" he asked. "Maribel," she whispered. "Maribel Quinn." Cal knew the Quinn place, small grazing ranch, 3 little girls, husband dead 4 winters now. Maribel raised her daughters alone, kept to herself but earned respect through grit and kindness. She was not someone who wandered the night on foot. "Where are your girls?" Cal asked softly. She pressed trembling fingers to her mouth. "I left them hidden in the root cellar." I didn't have a choice." Her words tightened something in Cal's ribs. "What happened?" She looked over her shoulder, back toward the darkness she'd escaped. "He came for me," she breathed. "Said I owed him for birthing daughters instead of sons. Said I was going with him whether I wanted to or not." A chill scraped Cal's spine. "Who?" But Maribel's answer was swallowed by the sudden crack of a branch deeper in the trees. Cal's lantern flickered. Maribel's breath hitched. Hoofbeats, slow, deliberate, approached from the ridge, as though the rider already knew exactly where she'd run. Cal moved in front of her. "Stay behind me," he said. Through the trees, a shadow separated from the dark, tall in the saddle, moving like a man certain he owned whatever he sought. Maribel's voice shook. "He found us." The rider stopped at the edge of the clearing, silent as a verdict. And Cal realized this night was far from over, for 20 words. The rider didn't speak. Didn't need to. His presence alone pressed the air thin. His hat brim hid his eyes, but Cal felt those eyes crawling over them anyway, slow as a wire tightening. "Evenin', Sheriff," the man drawled at last. His voice was a rasp of dust and arrogance. "Looks like you found something that belongs to me." Maribel flinched behind Cal. "I do not belong to you," she hissed. Cal kept his stance steady. "Ma'am tells me she's here for help." "She's confused." The rider nudged his horse forward, but not enough to enter the lantern light. "Women get that way. Especially ones who don't know their place." Cal's jaw tightened. "Nobody belongs to anybody." A soft chuckle drifted from the saddle, humorless and cold. "Sheriff, you forget yourself. Laws out here are written by men strong enough to enforce them." "Your name," Cal demanded. The writer shifted, letting the moon reveal part of his face, sharp cheekbones, a jaw shadowed by days-old beard. A scar cut through his eyebrow like a white slash of lightning. Recognition hit Cal like a hammer. Elias Crow. Notorious rancher. Wealthy. Known for breaking wild horses and men alike with the same rope. He'd ruled his spread through fear, not fairness. Rumors of what he'd done to people who crossed him drifted through the territory, always quiet, always unproven. "Maribel doesn't want to go with you," Cal said. "That's the end of it." Crow's smile was wrong. "She owes me. Promised herself in exchange for protection." "That's a contract, Sheriff." Maribel stiffened. "You call threats contracts. I never agreed." Crow ignored her. "Hand her over. I ain't a skin twice." Cal felt the weight of the moment settle like snow on a branch, waiting to break. Crow had power, men, money. Taking a stand meant dragging Maribel, and her children, into a storm far larger than this night. But letting her go meant abandoning 3 little girls hiding underground, waiting for a mother who might never return. Cal exhaled. "She stays with me." Crow watched him, measuring the pushback, deciding what it would cost. Then he spat to the side. "You made a poor choice, Sheriff. My men are comin'. And they're not the patient type." He wheeled his horse and vanished into the dark. Maribel gripped Cal's coat sleeve. "He won't wait till morning," she whispered. "He'll take me. He'll take my girls." Cal steadied her. "Then we move now." Above them, faint lights flickered along the ridge, riders massing. The night was no longer safe. They rode hard toward the Quinn homestead, Maribel clinging to the saddle front, Cal scanning every rise and shadow. The prairie at night felt too open, too exposed. Any hilltop could hide a watcher, any rustle could herald men closing in. As they neared her land, smoke drifted faintly in the air. Maribel stiffened. "No, no, no." But the smoke wasn't from fire. It came from lanterns swinging in the distance. Crow's men fanned out across the property, combing the outbuildings piece by piece. Dark shapes moved across the barn roof, others scouring the yard, their voices low and predatory. "They're already here," Maribel whispered. Cal steered the horse toward the back pasture, where a line of junipers might hide them. They dismounted in silence. "You said your girls are in the root cellar?" Cal murmured. Maribel nodded. "Hidden under the kitchen rug, latch covered. They know not to make a sound." "Good girls," Cal whispered. "Smart." From the shadows, they watched 2 men wrench open the barn doors. Another kicked over a bucket. A dog barked somewhere, then whimpered as someone silenced it. Cal felt anger rise, slow and thick. None of this was about law. It was about possession, Crow's belief that if he wanted something, he had the right to break whatever stood between him and the prize. "We need to get the girls," Maribel said. "We will. But not while they're crawling all over the house." A shout rang out. "They ain't here. That woman's long gone." Another voice answered, "Crow says she ran." We spread out. "Check the creek, the ridge, the corn rows." A pause, then, "If you see her, take her." Maribel turned her face away from the words, blinking hard. Cal gently touched her shoulder. "We'll get your girls out. I swear it." Hoofbeats erupted on the far side of the pasture, another patrol sweeping toward the house. "This is tightening too fast," Cal murmured. "We need a diversion." Maribel looked at him. "You mean you'll draw them away? And you'll go to the cellar? That's suicide, Sheriff. That's duty." The men's voices drew closer. Lantern beams flicked across the grass. Cal met Maribel's eyes. "When I ride out, you run." Get your girls. Hide in the storm gully north of the ridge. I'll meet you there. Cal, her voice cracked. No time for more. He whistled low, his horse pricked its ears, and Cal swung into the saddle. Then, with a shout, he kicked off toward the open field, straight into Crow's tightening noose. Cal's charge across the field drew every eye, and every rider, like sparks chasing dry tinder. Lanterns swung wildly as men mounted up, hollering for each other, splitting off to run him down. Gunmetal flashed, but shots didn't ring. Crow wanted Cal alive, wanted to make an example. Cal pushed his horse hard, weaving through cottonwoods, letting branches snap behind him. He counted on confusion, on darkness, on the fact that Crow's men weren't expecting a lone fool to rush them head-on. While chaos erupted behind him, Maribel slipped through the junipers toward her back door. She moved with a mother's terror and a mother's strength. Every step was a prayer. Every shadow felt like a grasping hand. But she made it, reached the kitchen door, and eased it open with trembling fingers. Inside, the house was too quiet. Dust motes drifted in the lantern light. The table stood crooked, a chair knocked over, evidence of Crow's men searching earlier. Heart pounding, Maribel crossed the room, dropped to her knees, and pulled back the faded rug. The latch was still covered. She pried it open. 3 small faces stared up, wide, scared, silent. Mama, the youngest finally breathed. Hush, my darlings. Maribel gathered them into her arms, tears slipping down her cheeks. We're leaving. Right now. Is he coming back? The oldest whispered. Maribel pressed her cheek to her daughter's hair. No one's taking you. Not while I breathe. They moved quickly, slipping out into the night, using the shadows to mask their shapes. Maribel guided them toward the storm gully, deep, narrow, cut into the earth by years of rain. Few knew about it, fewer could find it at night. As they approached the ridge, hoofbeats thundered nearby, then drifted away. Cal was still out there, drawing danger to himself so her girls could escape. They reached the gully and slid down its gravel slope. Hidden from sight, surrounded by earth and stars, Maribel finally let herself breathe. Maribel understood. Crow survived on intimidation, not honor. Take away his audience, and he'd stand alone. They moved through the ravines, weaving between rock walls that rose like ancient cathedral pillars. Dawn brushed pink across the sky by the time they reached a narrow box canyon, a dead end unless you knew the hidden exit carved by flash floods. Cal sent Maribel and the girls through the gap. Stay behind that bend. No matter what you hear, stay hidden. But. Trust me, he said gently. Maribel hesitated, then obeyed. The girls clung to her, eyes wide, trusting entirely in the man risking everything for them. Cal turned back, stepping into the open canyon with calm purpose. It didn't take long. Crow appeared at the entrance, flanked by 2 men. But Cal noticed instantly, the men held back, nervous. They'd followed Crow out of fear, not loyalty. Cal's voice carried. Crow. This ends now. Crow dismounted slowly. You think you can challenge me, Sheriff? I own this land. You own nothing you can't defend. Crow's jaw tightened. Where's the woman? Gone. Safe. And you won't touch her again. Crow lunged, but Cal didn't reach for his gun. He sidestepped, letting Crow's momentum slam him into the canyon wall. Dust rained down. Crow staggered. Cal held his ground, speaking loud enough for the other men to hear. She never agreed to anything. You threatened her. You hunted her. You terrorized her children. That's not a contract, that's a crime. One of Crow's men shifted uneasily. The other looked away, shame burning through him. Crow roared and charged again, but this time Cal braced. The struggle was fierce but quick. Cal's training and Crow's rage were mismatched forces. Within moments, Crow was on his knees, breath ragged, pride shattered. Cal stepped back. Walk away from this territory, Crow. If you ever come near Maribel or her girls again, you'll answer to the law, and to me. Crow spat dirt. But something in him broke. His men were watching, not with fear this time, but with judgment. His power dissolved under their gaze. He stood slowly, dusted himself off, and without a word, mounted his horse. His men followed, silent and shaken. Their hoofbeats faded until the canyon was still again. Maribel emerged from the shadows, tears glistening. Her daughters ran to Cal, hugging his legs in fierce gratitude. She stepped close. "Thank you," she whispered. "For giving us our lives back." Cal tipped his hat, but his voice was soft. "You gave yourself that. I just helped you stand." Epilogue. Weeks later, the Quinn homestead thrummed with quiet rebuilding. Neighbors brought lumber, mended fences, restored safety where fear had once taken root. Cal visited often, ostensibly to check on security, though the girls always dragged him into tea at the table. Maribel, stronger now, met him each time with a calm smile that said more than words ever did. Years later, those girls would remember one night above all others, the night their mother chose escape, the night a sheriff chose courage over convenience, and the night a family reclaimed their future. And sometimes, when dusk lit the horizon gold, Maribel would look toward the ridge, toward the canyon where her nightmare ended, and feel the steady warmth of freedom settle in her chest like the final glow of a western sunset. Final shot, a lone rider leaving the Quinn homestead at dusk, dust swirling behind him, the sky blazing orange as the world quiets, peace at last, earned in the hard light of the frontier.